Hello everyone, my name is Florina Kirvase and you are here as a guest to my podcast called Business as Usual. Now the idea of this podcast has started at least 1 year ago, and I was procrastinating and keeping myself in the comfort zone because it's something that I don't do normally. So this is not my full-time job. This is, one can call it a hobby. Someone else might call it a passion. At the end, for me, it has reached a moment to give back something that I've been taking in all these years from various mentors, from various colleagues, from the business I've been activating in. Business as Usual is an unusual podcast. So if you expect that listening to this podcast you will know how to make money, don't waste your time. You will not, unless you have a passion for business. And when I'm saying business, I'm not talking about a job that you have 9 to 5. I'm not talking about a job where you are only waiting from one holiday to the other. So I'm talking to you if you are passionate about the business and about creating added value for the companies that you are working for. And here I include those that are self-employed, I include those that are employees for a long lifetime, and those that are just at the beginning of their careers. Let me tell you something interesting. I will need to read it because it's not me that I've written it. When you want to be joyful, think of all the outstanding results of those living close to you. For example, someone's activity, someone's modesty, someone else's passion, and try to gather them if possible. Because nothing brings more joy to us than the virtuous examples coming out of behavior of those contemporary with us and potentially brought together. This is why it is useful to have them at handy, collected somewhere. And I haven't said this. This has been written by a guy called Marcus Aurelius in his book called Thoughts to Oneself. Now, Marcus Aurelius lived between 121 and 180, and he became an emperor when he was 39 years old. So on his business card, provided he would have had one, the name was Imperator Caesar Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Augustus. Why gathering stories together? It's for a broader perspective of the business life and for a collective legacy, if you want. And because we all share the stories of our life, we are all experts only in the stories of our life, and without even knowing, we could inspire, we could motivate, and we could drive a meaningful purpose in others. And in the end, because we are all mirrors one to each other, and we get taught, we get inspired, we get motivated only in the light of sharing the stories. And I think that's one of the reasons why biographies, life stories, storytelling, podcasting is something that will never go out of fashion. Because we want to hear the stories of the others, and sometimes some slides of them might be of use for us. So here I am, straight out of the comfort zone, describing to you a little bit what it will be all about in this podcast. The intention of Business as Usual is to have a mixture between a monologue and dialogue. And the reason I'm saying this is sometimes there will be some guests coming to the show. We try to keep it everything between 30 and 40 minutes max. And the reason is everybody has something else for their agendas. And I'm very grateful and honored to have here in this space of Business as Usual people that have dedicated their lives to the business. The discussion is about the values, about these lifetime set of moral values that bring us successful in business, and is not necessarily all the time pragmatic. So if I may sound sometimes too zen for you, trust me, it's for a good reason. It's the way I am resonating with life, but it has been a very harsh learning curve. Now, you, the one that are listening to me, I might find you in a very different moment of your life. So the things that you will hear in this podcast might not necessarily be 100% interesting to you, or vice versa. They might be life-changing. Take it, use it as you would like to. I'm very grateful for your time. And I can only tell you that all the people that you will hear to in the next episodes will be having very authentic stories, because here we are talking about each and everyone's story. I think I should start with my story, because the moment I will tell you a little bit more about me, you might take the decision whether it's interesting for you to go on with this or not. I've been thinking that it's a long time we are not talking to each other, in case you know me. And I also have been thinking that we didn't have at any point of time the reason and the occasion to have such a discussion. Normally, business people like the one we are people that are professional, and we are professionally wearing shields. When I'm saying this, I'm referring to the fact that we are straight to the point. We work about our time in budgets. We talk about forecasting. We talk about making money for the companies. And any discussion needs to have an outcome. The pandemic learned, we learned during the pandemic, that the worst thing that can happen is the fact that we can be disconnected one from each other. And when you think about the hybrid way of working, you still see that the interaction face-to-face, it's of high importance. So podcasting helps me to reach most of you and to reach you in the moment of a comfort zone. I would be very glad if you would like to be here as a guest. I'm launching the invitation to all of you. You can write me on my email address that I will let everyone have. And you can also write me on the on the website. Tell me, I would be very happy to meet you, even if we don't know each other yet. As I said, I start with me. I start with me in a moment where I had everything, just to lose everything and then to regain everything. Now, how does this sound? It's kind of illogical. For those knowing what happens in a professional life is when you have everything in times of a career and you tick all the boxes, you are considered by the others a very successful person, which I was. So I was a successful person. I'm still one, but for very different reasons. No, it will not go into a story of burnout. I managed to avoid this. Or maybe I stopped at the right time, although I think that life stopped me at the right time. It happened in a zone where I was not realizing anymore what I was doing, how many hours I was spending for the business, and what exactly was my role. And then it stopped. And you will say, okay, but why? And I say, I don't know why. I did not even address this question to myself. You know, these jobs that are consuming you a lot, that you don't work 10 hours, but you can work 12 and you can work 14 hours, not because somebody tells you, but because you feel the need. You feel the need to demonstrate something, most likely to yourself. I was not so smart. And I started a career in a time where I was just straight out of my university. Now, I will spare you the stories of the university because I started as a very poor student, poor in a material way. So I was doing well. I had good grades. I was performing well at school. I was never the first one, but also never the last one. The university caught me. I'm Romanian, so I come from a country that has lived under a dictatorship for many years. And it was a Wild West where I had to send another 14 people at home to make sure that my place at the university was mine. Now, if there was 1 kilo of potatoes 1 week because there was nothing else to eat, then I can tell you potatoes recipes for 20 ways, but I don't think that this is interesting for you. What is interesting maybe is the moment when I graduated from the university and I knew that I have and I want to pay my bills. And I say I have to and then I want to, because this is a distinction. fear of not being able to reach the end of the month was the best driver for me to start my career. And it was powerful enough to make sure that I never stayed without money in my pocket, to make sure that I was able to guarantee afterwards, when I became a mom, a life to my children, and to be able to provide the stability for our family. Now, this might sound personal, but I don't know any other story than my own. And I think it would be trivial, and it would be also a lack of consistency to start digging and asking questions about the stories of the others if I wouldn't be here in a space that you can call vulnerable and others could call brave, and I'm just sharing something of my story with you. So coming back, started paying the bills. Then, the society with a lot of ticks in the box. You have to tick a box of the holidays. You have most likely to tick a box of the housing. You need to tick a box of the nice things that surround you. And with beginning and mid of the 20s, I would say it's also normal. So it's usual. I started as an employee, and I've never had this drive to become a self-employed, or not yet. What happens next is that I went into an industry and started this career that is like a ladder. So you start from ground zero, and then you build and you build. And it was a never-ending story, which I very much enjoyed. I started in a customer service, and then I moved into logistics, and then I moved into sales, and then I moved into management. Now, selling since 20 years is, yes, my passion, but I'm not selling, I'm just letting the others buy. There are no secrets into this. I mean, we can dive and we can go deeper into the details of each and every profession if you have an interest. And by the way, this is a monologue for the time being, but I would be very happy if you can deliver some feedback. Just write some comments about what would you like to see in this podcast. So sales is not for everyone, because you get a lot of doors shut straight into your face. The people are not waiting there for you. The people were not there waiting for me, and the career is also not there waiting for me. So certainly I was working with a dedication, but I never really was that introspective in my 20s to understand why I am doing what I'm doing. Because then when the fear that started decreasing and the joy of being in the business started increasing, I felt very much in balance. And I think I have been for a very long time in balance with myself, even if the job was never only 8 hours a day. And afterwards I became a mom of one and then of two. And with two kids, it was again for me absolutely normal to travel the world and to see the children not on an everyday basis. They grew up knowing that their mom is somewhere doing business, somewhere selling, not necessarily on the same continent. They got a lot of toys from all the shops around the world, so every airport had a specific toy for one of the children. And it was fun until it wasn't. Until I reached home and my daughter, who was still a baby, started calling me daddy. And then I think it was the first signal for me that I realized something is not really going in the right direction. I haven't changed anything. It was simply normal for me that I was not there at the ballet show of my daughter for a good reason. I had to manage a team. And there was a fair somewhere. There was a congress somewhere else. And I don't want that you misinterpret. This is not victimization. It really was very enjoyable. And what I'm trying to say is that there is a price that you have to pay if you want to have a career. Because by doing this, without even realizing, by being there fully in the flow of business, is the way I have reached then the sales manager or managing the team, making sure that I produce money for the company, making sure that the budgets are really looking great, and so on. And you might say, okay, and what happened next? I mean, come on, it's your story. I say, yes, it is my story, which will be very different from yours. And I invite you to describe and to put yourself in a place of out of the comfort zone where you can show to the others and tell the others the story of your way of doing career. What was the role of the mentors in this career? It's hard to say, because the 2000, so beginning of the 2000, there was not necessarily a mentorship. And I'm talking about the universal space, but I'm talking also in detail about a European space. Now, the American School of Business is slightly different, because mentorship is something that is definitely done on a regular basis. In Europe, and especially in South Europe, because this transition was catching me between Italy and Germany, mentorship was not something that you would necessarily consider. It was normal to be on your own, and I was used to be on my own, until I realized that there were a lot of people surrounding me and empowering me to grow up in my role. And I think this is the right moment to say thank you to all those that in one way or the other helped me increase the level of my self-awareness, help me be less arrogant, because, by the way, I'm talking to you beginning of career. In our 20s and even early 30s, we have a certain degree of arrogance. And I'm not saying this in a judgmental way. I'm saying this in the most positive way that arrogance can be, because it's the driver that says, I can do it. I don't know if I will do it better, but I can tell you I will do it different. And keep it, because this is a very nice engine that you can use. I wouldn't say to keep it on a long term, because then you will stay alone. And no one can really do a career, have a successful business life if one wants and thinks that is alone. Whew. Quite a way until here, isn't it? What else? So my business life, as I said, was starting without the children. It was afterwards with a lot of consensus from my family, with a lot of understanding and a lot of patience. Again, it was a time where taking 4 planes a day was absolutely normal. Being up to 70% of my time traveling, again, I was considering normal. And many times in my life, I've got this comment from people around me saying, you're crazy, it's impossible, you will burn out, you'll not make it, why do you do what you do, and so on. Again, I was not questioning myself. I felt simply that I was on my way. The moment when I started questioning myself was much later. I was end of my 30s. And I've got all of a sudden something that I could not explain, because my health was all the time in a very good condition until it wasn't. So I realized afterwards, talking to a CEO, that what I was experiencing while driving a car in a very full city, full of cars, it was a panic attack. And you would say, oh, come on, cannot be. Yes, I was the Wonder Woman with a panic attack that I could not understand and explain why. With the mind of today, I would say the body started giving a signal, guy, it's too much. And then I stopped the car, and I was kind of trembling. I was not really able to focus, and I decided to take a break. Taking a break for me was meaning one day where I was able to read a little bit less emails and have a little bit less meetings. So don't believe that I went to the Maldives and I stayed there 3 weeks not doing anything. No, that was not for me. After this panic attack, everything went fine. I was under a stressful period because I was changing the companies, and By the way, in case you don't know, if you are 20 years in one company, good for you. But if you change from one company to the other, you will take with you your reputation, but you will never take with you your former colleagues and your former comfort zone. And what do I mean with this? As the moment when you go out of your comfort zone, the whole self-awareness that you have is out. Maybe while I say this, it might resonate with you. For those that are in a transition, and by the way, this is one thing that I'm doing as a coach. It's a specialization in transition and leadership. But if you are in a transition means out of a comfort zone, in a zone of unknown, on the way to another comfort zone. Because we need habits. As human beings, we need habits all the time. We need to know how our agenda looks like, how the days are looking like, who's waiting for us at home, provided we have somebody. If not, you might question why. If it's a choice, fine, move on. The moment when I was out of the comfort zone, even if in the industry and in the company I've been really known for what I was doing, I discovered a whole new world and a place that was not necessarily waiting for me. And that is the moment when you get a lot of resistance from the others. And again, it's not in a negative way, but it's not that the world is looking for you to make the step and say, oh, by the way, now I have a great startup, or now I am the best of the best. And what you will do is listen to me because I know it better than you. So cutting the story short, when I went from a company and moved to another one, I started from zero. And this is a stress level because it takes time to create awareness. It takes time to understand that the others are there just like me and just like you. And it takes time to understand that if there is something coming in my life, it's for a good reason and at the right moment. But again, I might sound for you a little bit too zen, especially if you are at the beginning, or especially if you are straight out of your comfort zone in an area that you would long and you would like to have something that you know exactly that all your days are the same. Guess what? None of your days is the same. Even if every day of our life starts in the same way, the experience of life that we get is simply different. And it's nice to be like this. That's the beauty of each of us as human beings. We come here to gather a set of experiences. Not every experience is pleasant. Not every day is full of joy. But the beauty of summer is only when you have a winter. The beauty of the day is only when you have a night. And the beauty of being loved is only when you have these moments of solitude, when you think you really don't count for anyone. Tough. And beauty. Yeah, life has a meaning, isn't it? What else shall I tell you? Moving back to my story. So straight out of the comfort zone, went to zero, build another team, build another reputation on the same basis. The basis that we build on is actually our character. So if I know that for me work is a value, I will build on my work. If I know that my image is a value, I will build on my image. If I know that honesty is a value, I will build on honesty. If I work in a trustful space, I would like to work with somebody that trusts me and that I can trust. It's a give and take all the time. The reason of this podcast is also to discover people that have made life-changing decisions, not because they wanted, but because life in a way forced them. The sense of life is nothing that reveals to each other as a map where you know exactly, like all the roads and all the streets of your life, where you will move from one point to the other. It's not that easy. And I like very much this story that Steve Jobs said once about connecting the dots. You know, when you have something that happens to you that doesn't make necessarily sense in that moment of life, and then another thing, and then another thing. And you need to have the patience, and if you have the fortune to have another 10 years, and then you look back, and then you'll see that all those dots connect. Because nothing is useless, and nothing comes without a lesson to learn. One thing it could be not so good for you is if you start losing your self-awareness. And why I'm saying this is because sometimes I meet people that are so full of themselves, like they know everything, like they don't accept anymore that they could learn something from the others. They are only there as teachers. And one of the principles of this coaching school that I've studied, which is called IPEC, is we are at all point of time a teacher and a student. I come in your life to give you something. You come in my life to give me something. I thank you. It's a win-win. And when you are part of this universe, everything connects, and we are all connected to each other. So you will hear things about the business that you might connect afterwards to other fields of your life. And by the way, when you talk about the energy, one of the principles that I do like a lot is we are all one energy. So if I present myself with a good energy at my job, doing what I want, how I like, and giving added value to the company that pays me the bills, it's definitely something that the others will benefit, and so on and so on. If my energy is not in balance, and I will explain a bit later what I mean with this, you will feel it. You will feel it in my actions, you will feel it in my thoughts, and you will definitely feel it in my attitude if you want to have eyes for this. If you're very much self-focused, and all you think is that you need to be on your way, and you forget that everyone else is on their way. It might be that your adapters, your sensors for the sensitivity of the others are shut down, but they are always there. So I'm talking about two concepts. One is the self-awareness, and the other one is the awareness. We all make sense only when we are in relationship with the others. Business is no exception. It makes sense. If you have a product that you want to sell, it needs to make sense for someone else. I can be the best sales manager in the world, but if you as a consumer do not need what I'm selling, the market is not there. As simple as it is. And you will hear in the episodes people from different industries, and you will hear people with very different background. My advice is, if whenever you will want to listen to this podcast, listen without judging necessarily, because you can do it different, but what you will listen to is the story of somebody that at that moment in time did the very best, and the way the life showed up for him or for her was like this. Take it, digest it, use it, share it with somebody else. Sharing is important. If you share this story with somebody else, might be more useful to that person than to yourself. Don't keep for you. When we keep things for us, when we think we are the only owners of the truth, we lost. We are lost because we lose each other. When we think that the only purpose of doing business is making money, we lose. Because money is a tool, it's not the purpose itself. I can give you stones, I can give you salt, like in the history. We can be paid in crypto, something I don't necessarily understand yet. Again, It's a story. It's the story of what stays behind. So I told you at the beginning of this episode that I do not tell you how to make money because I don't know how to. But I can tell you how not to make money. So how you will not be able to make if you think only that the purpose is, if you're interested in doing this, you skip the content. And then instead of getting more into the purpose, we take some steps back. Again, a learning curve. And as we are approaching the end of this episode, and I was telling you that my story started in a way where I had everything, I lost everything to regain everything. I had everything externally. So this life that comes with a package of ticking the box. I lost everything the moment why I lost someone, that someone being me. I lost myself. Trying to please the society, trying to tick the boxes, trying to do the ways of the others, I was not recognizing myself anymore on the path. And because I was not true to myself, and I even didn't know exactly what I wanted, it came as a very dark stage of my life where I was a little bit on an automatic pilot. Yes, guess what? I guess you know how it means when you do the things because you have to, but you don't know exactly why you do. The moment when I gained everything was the moment I met, finally, as a grown-up, myself. Thank you very much for listening to. If it was interesting enough and if you're curious, there is more to come. All the best.